faith and self-discovery, it's time to check in with the Bible department. Let's go. Nailed it. Barely, but that's okay. Hey, I'm Matt with sowcincy. Welcome to the Tuesday night show, which we're going to switch things up. I keep switching things up. I know. I'm trying to be consistent. I'm trying to do a whole lot of stuff. Fridays, it's just not a thing. It can't be. I've tried. By the time Friday rolls around, I'm exhausted. So going forward, the full show will be just Tuesday. We'll be doing everything in it. And at the end of the show, we'll give you next week's episode. It's more manageable. I think it's more manageable for me. I'd love to be streaming more and things like that, but just with this January season and things like that, just for the foreseeable future, I think it'll be better to be doing one show a week, because I'm getting more into the writing and recording and editing videos and stuff like that, which will be up Wednesdays. So it'll just be manageable. Live stream Tuesday, video on Wednesday, which I'm going back and forth, but I think tomorrow's video is going to be about the web Bible. So be on the lookout for that. That will pop up tomorrow. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. I have a different mic setup right now, so if you hear like background noise and things like that, that's what's going on. So and for some reason this setup picks up the heater of our house, which is like right behind me, so that's why it seems a little bit more on the louder, like you hear that background noise. But if you're into that ASMR thing and you like that background noise, then hey, we can turn up the heat. Not really, because our Duke Energy bill is outrageous. So let's go ahead and jump into it. We're going to be in Genesis 7. Like I do, we'll read it. We'll answer 3 questions. I'll answer 3 questions. And then we will chat about it. Okay, cool. And this is Genesis 7. If you did not hear last week's episode, last Tuesday, I apologize. I wanted to be live Thursday night, but time just was not on my side. So, all right, it reads, "When everything was ready, the Lord said to Noah, 'Go into the boat with all your family, for among all the people of the earth, I can see that you alone are righteous. Take with you 7 pairs, male and female, of each animal I have approved for eating and for sacrifice, and take 1 pair of each of the others. Also, take 7 pairs of every kind of bird. There must be a male and a female in each pair to ensure that all life will survive on the earth after the flood. 7 days from now, I will make the rains pour down on the earth, and it will rain for 40 days and 40 nights, until I've wiped from the earth all the living things I have created.' So Noah did everything as the Lord commanded him. And Noah was 600 years old when the flood covered the earth. He went on board the boat to escape the flood, he and his wife and his sons and their wives. With them were all the various kinds of animals, those approved for eating and for sacrifice, and those that were not, along with all the birds and the small animals that scurry along the ground. They entered the boat in pairs, male and female, just as God had commanded Noah. And after 7 days, the water of the flood came and covered the earth. When Noah was 600 years old, on the 17th day of the 2nd month, all the underground waters erupted from the earth, and the rain fell in mighty torrents from the sky. The rain continued to fall for 40 days and 40 nights. That very day, Noah had gone into the boat with his wife and his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives. With them in the boat were pairs of every kind of animal, domestic and wild, large and small, along with birds of every kind. 2 by 2 they came into the boat, representing every living thing that breathes. A male and female of each kind entered just as God had commanded Noah. And then the Lord closed the door behind them. For 40 days the flood waters grew deeper, covering the ground and lifting the boat high above the earth. As the waters rose higher and higher above the ground, the boat floated safely on the surface. Finally, the water covered even the highest mountains on the earth, rising more than 22 feet above the highest peaks. All the living things on earth died: birds, domestic animals, wild animals, small animals that scurry along the ground, and all the people. Everything that breathed and lived on the dry land died. God wiped out every living thing on the earth: people, livestock, small animals that scurry along the ground, and the birds of the sky. All were destroyed. The only people who survived were Noah and those with him in the boat. And the flood waters covered the earth for 150 days. And that is the end of Genesis 7, as we've read 1 through 24. Now, our first question that we ask is, what does it say about God, Jesus, about his plan? So, when I see this passage, as I'm reading it, me and Kristen talked about this in I think the last episode when it talked about Genesis 6, because God was laying out the plan. And what we had both said was that when God gives his plan, because I think we were talking about the boat itself and how it was built. When God laid out his plans for his people, and what we see here was that he was very specific in it. When you hear, like, when I hear the Noah story, the Noah and the Ark story, especially when it's taught to like kids and stuff, like it was always just presented as the animals came in two by two, just things like that. But and what it says here when you're reading it, it's saying, verse 2, take with you 7 pairs, males and female, of each animal I have approved for eating and for sacrifice. Take 1 pair of each of the others. Also take 7 pairs of every kind of bird. There must be a male and a female in each pair to ensure that all life will survive on the earth after the flood. And so when you read it as a child, I think as when you're reading it as like a 2 by 2, you don't, it's just like there were 2 doves, or there were 2 squirrels, or there were 2 rabbits, and that was it. But what this lays out is that there were animals. Oh, I didn't even pull it back up. I'm sorry. But there were animals used for eating and for sacrifice. Like, I think what happens is, like, in a child representation of the story, like, you don't think that they needed animals for eating, and you definitely, at least I don't, or at least I was never taught that there were animals for sacrifice. That I don't know if the sacrifice was God's law, if there were still things that God required in his. Well, no, I don't. Well, would the law have been given at this point? It's another time. But anyways, so God wanted sacrifice. But anyways, but when I'm thinking of it as a child, I'm thinking, oh yeah, like they got McDonald's, they got Chick-fil-A on the boat as well. I don't think that it's just, there's 2 birds, boom, they go, they get off the boat eventually, and then they repopulate. And so to read that in the plan, it's like God is bringing all animals, like he's bringing all the animals to repopulate the earth. He's bringing all the animals for food, and he's bringing all the animals for sacrifice, both as it says here, the clean ones and the unclean ones. If I was going in to study more, I would be curious about what they meant more about the clean and the unclean. So, and then in verse 5, you just see Noah's response to this, which is getting into the second question, but Noah just did everything as God commanded him to do so. And so God lays it out. He puts out the flood, takes everything, all the animals, all the mammals on the earth and things like that, the birds, and it talks about how the water covered everything. And you hear that it, especially for me, when you hear the Noah story, you hear that it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. But what it continues to say is that God had made the water stay for 150 days. Yeah, verse 24, and the flood waters covered the earth for 150 days. You just think Noah and the animals were in the boat for 40 days and 40 nights. But no, the water sat for another 150 days after it rained for the 40 days and 40 nights. So I know in my childhood, I think those little tiny things get lost in the kids' version of the story. But when you actually go back and read it, it's the same with, and I'm going to get into another passage, but it's the same with David and Goliath. Like, you think David, he has a slingshot, throws it, kills Goliath. No, it just knocks him down. David actually goes and gets his sword and cuts off Goliath's head. It's like that sort of thing, right? Like why? Like we're not going to tell that story to kids. Why? I don't know. But yeah, we kind of like make it not as bad. But yeah, I mean, that's why it's so important to, I think, read through the Bible. Like, you can get, like, yeah, sure, I'd get a kid's Bible, but if you have kids and you're teaching them, just read from a regular Bible, especially a story like Noah and Noah's Ark and things like that, because it's such a this is gonna sound bad saying it, but it's a classic story. I think a lot of people know the story. Like, David and Goliath is a classic story. Noah and his Ark is a classic story. What's another one that's classic? Daniel in the Lion's Den is a Bible classic. And when I say classic, I mean like if you've been to a like Sunday school as a child, you've probably heard one of those stories. So that's my thoughts on that one. But when we look at the next question, what does this say about humans? What do we learn about, or what does this reveal about humans and their intent, or what does this reveal about humans? But when I read this, it was God speaking. It was God saying, "I'm going to do these things. I'm going to wipe out the earth." In the last chapter we talked about the building the boat, but I'm going to wipe out the earth. You're going to do this is what you're going to do. You're going to build me this boat. I'm going to bring you all the animals. You're going to go in. You're going to do these things, and then it just says Noah did everything as the Lord commanded him. And then the other thing it says is, like, verse 13. I'm going to highlight it. The other thing this reveals is it started to rain. Underground waters erupted from the earth, verse 11. The rain continued to fall for 40 days and 40 nights. And that very day, Noah had gone into the boat with his wife and his sons and their wives. And so for Noah, if we understand Noah and who he is and things like that, what you learned about in the last chapter, in chapter 6, was that Noah was, I think it was chapter 6, might have been chapter 5, but Noah was a righteous guy. Like, he lived and breathed and acted as if God was to be respected. He feared God. He understood God. To be righteous is, in God's sight, according to Old Testament stuff, to be righteous was to believe that God was serious. And I'm getting into my rules of going out to other passages, but when it comes to understanding, like, I guess, the righteousness, like Abraham was righteous because he just believed in God. It was the faith of Abraham that made him believe what God would say, what God was saying. And so you just see this, and that there's a person who is righteous will take God at his word and do as he says. And so, when we I don't know. I'm curious as to why we might not, and you can leave a comment. Why we'll be righteous to other people that we are bothered by, don't like, but yet we're so, I don't know. When I say we, I don't mean like we, but I'm speaking just for my own self. How come we're so hesitant to believe, like trust in God and just do what he says? Like, I get it, like it's a spiritual thing. Like, I get that. But you don't get that same I don't know what the word is. You don't get that same response when it's a boss you don't like. Like, your boss can say, go and do this thing for the Lord boss has commanded. And you'll go do it. Right? Like, why is that sort of thing not given to God when it comes to things he said? I hope that makes sense. Like, because there's times where I just will refuse to obey God. That's you're probably like, why am I listening to this guy? But if I'm honest, like if I'm just being transparent and honest here, like there are times where God has told me to do something, not told me as in like he spoke to me as I'm sitting here on my couch. Like, I read something in his word. I read something in the Bible, and I flat out thought to myself, nah, I don't like that. But yet I could have a boss, and I'm not saying my boss now because my boss is probably watching this, but I have had bosses before that I did not care for, did not like, yet still did what they asked me, even if it wasn't grumbling. Like, why is that not the same? That's what I'm asking. I know that sounds confusing, but I don't know. Leave me your thoughts in the comments. Why is, take the spiritual side out of it. Oh, we're part of it's part of our flesh, and take that out of it. Just from a logical standpoint. Oh my gosh. I don't know if you heard that. We got Lily a rubber chicken for her birthday. She found it and she just made it scream. So sorry about that if that picked up. But I heard it loud and clear in my headphones. Anyways. I don't know. That's a question. It's a question. I mean, I think it's an okay question, because where else are you going to ask questions about, things like in a Bible study space? So, I don't know. Those are my thoughts. Anyways, let's go to the next one. Question number 3. Oh my gosh. I'm going to hold on one second. I got to mute myself. Sorry about that. All right. What am I doing well? If this is true, if the Bible is true, what am I doing well? What do I need to change? It's always easier for the what do I need to change. And the what do I need to change just goes right back into what I was just saying, was that help me, God, be at a place where I can look at your word. I can look at what you say. I can find the eternal truths in it. And I can just easily do what it says. If it says, love my enemy, we just had the Iowa caucus just happened this past weekend. It's 2024. It's going to be a tumultuous election season, all that. I already saw people on Twitter /X, talking about it and how it's the death of democracy and all these things, and there's a potential dictator and stuff, and it's just like, oh, it's like, if I view these people as my enemy, I'm just hypothetically speaking here, right? Like how do I love them better? How do I pray for them? How do I wish blessings upon them according to what the Bible might say? And I'm going that based off of not other scripture, but I'm going that based off of verse 5. So Noah did everything as the Lord commanded him. That's what I'm basing it off of. We'll highlight it so you all can see it. How can I better myself so that, like Noah, I do everything that the Lord commanded? If I'm to love, if you look at other scripture, if I'm going to love my wife well, I'm going to love Kristen, who joins me occasionally. If I'm going to love her well, I want to have the supernatural strength to be able to do that as the Lord commands me. If I want to be patient with my children, I want to do that as the Lord commands me. If I'm going to supernaturally serve someone, right? I want to do it as the Lord commands me. That's kind of what I'm looking at. I don't know. As I studied this week, I didn't really get a sense of that there was something that is true about my life compared to this passage. But what I could build upon was that point, was that looking at verse 5 where it says Noah did everything the Lord commanded him. I'm reading in the text, but it's okay. I think it's okay for this point. I want to be at a point where it says, so Matt did everything as the Lord commanded him. And that's kind of what I want my life to be, right? If there's something that God commands me to do, I did it as he commanded me. That's my hope. And it's a challenge, and I think for anyone it's a challenge to do. It's a struggle. It's a battle because it is spiritual. I did not do a video about it. I was talking to someone about it. They asked about, I just don't have it in me to read the Bible. And I said to them, well, Bible reading is a discipline, but it's also a spiritual discipline. And the reason that it's a spiritual discipline is because there's a spiritual element to it, that Satan does not want you to read God's word. So you can read Harry Potter all day. You can read, I don't know many books. The Hunger Games. I don't know many fictional books like that. You can read self-help books all day. Like I got a bunch of books here. I got Atomic Habits. I got Urban Apologetics. I got a bunch of stuff here. It's easy to read like books to like make you quote unquote a better person according to yourself. But when it comes to reading the Bible, it's more than just reading a book. It's a spiritual act. And so I told them, I'm like, when you go and read the Bible, pray before you do, because that's going to give you're bringing a supernatural, spiritual, setting into your normal, regular, natural life. And so that's why Bible reading is such a challenge, because it is something that is spiritual and has the power to transform all those things. But yeah, so I just want to turn it off there. I'm Matt with sowcincy. Thanks for watching tonight's episode. If you liked it, leave a like. If you have a question or a comment, leave a comment below, and we'll see you around. We'll see you next week. Love you guys. Have a great week. Actually, no. JK. We're going to be in Genesis 8 next week. The flood recedes. Genesis 8 verses 1 through 14. So if you got the verse all the way here at the end, leave a comment that says I got it, and that'll tell me that you're a trooper and you watched the entire thing. Love you guys. Have a great week. We'll see ya.